Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready to tackle a topic that seems to cause endless confusion?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Always a lot of strong opinions about this one.
Exactly. Today we're diving deep into protein, specifically how much protein each of us actually needs.
Ah, yes, the age-old question.
We'll be breaking down a super informative video from the Institute of Human Anatomy called How Much Protein You Really Need, According to Science.
Sounds like a good one.
I think we're going to uncover some interesting stuff, so let's jump right in.
All right, let's do it.
So, to start off simple, what exactly is protein? Why is it so important for our bodies?
Well, think of protein like the building blocks of your body. They're made up of these smaller units called amino acids.
Like tiny little Legos.
Exactly. And just like Legos can build all sorts of different things, amino acids make up everything from your muscles to your hormones and even your hair and nails.
Wow, so it's basically everywhere. The video also mentions that there are 5 categories of protein in the body.
Yeah, there are.
Could you maybe touch on a couple that are especially important for us gym goers and athletes?
Sure. So 2 key categories would be contractile proteins and enzymatic proteins. Contractile proteins are basically the powerhouses behind muscle contractions.
So they're what allow us to move and lift weights and run.
Exactly. Without those contractile proteins like actin and myosin, we wouldn't be able to do much of anything.
Fascinating. And what about enzymatic proteins?
Those are crucial for all kinds of metabolic processes, like turning food into energy and helping us recover from exercise.
Ah, so they're kind of like the behind-the-scenes crew, making sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly. For example, enzymes play a key role in breaking down the protein we eat into those individual amino acids that our muscles need to repair and grow.
It's amazing how our bodies do all of that without us even thinking about it.
It really is.
Now, the video also talks about this concept called protein turnover, which is basically a continuous cycle happening in our bodies. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. Imagine your body is like a construction site. There's always something being built or torn down. Protein turnover is basically that constant process of breaking down old proteins and using the amino acids to build new ones.
So it's like a constant renovation project going on inside us.
Exactly. And when we exercise, especially strength training, we're actually breaking down muscle protein.
Which is why we feel sore afterwards.
Yeah. But the cool thing is that when we rest and eat properly, our bodies use those amino acids to rebuild the muscle even stronger than before.
That's how we get stronger over time. But how do we actually figure out how much protein we need to fuel this whole process?
Right, good question. And that's where nitrogen balance comes in. It's the key to understanding our protein needs.
Nitrogen balance.
Yeah. Basically, protein contains nitrogen, and scientists can actually measure the amount of nitrogen you consume through food and the nitrogen you excrete as waste. By looking at that balance, they can tell whether you're building, maintaining, or even losing muscle.
So if we're taking in more nitrogen than we're losing, that means we're probably building muscle.
Exactly. That means you have a positive nitrogen balance and your body has enough protein to build and repair tissues.
Makes sense. Now, what about those protein recommendations we always hear about, like the RDA? How does that fit into all of this?
Ah, yes, the RDA. You've probably seen it on food labels. It's 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But here's the thing, that RDA is really just the bare minimum to prevent deficiency. It's not enough for most people who are active, let alone those who are really into fitness.
So for someone who's hitting the gym a few times a week or training for a race, that RDA is not going to cut it.
Nope. That's where the idea of a protein spectrum comes in. Think of it like a sliding scale based on how active you are and what your goals are. For active people, it generally ranges from about 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
Okay, so imagine we have this spectrum with casual gym goers on one end and those hardcore bodybuilders on the other.
Right.
Where would someone who works out maybe 3 or 4 times a week fall on that spectrum?
Someone who exercises regularly but isn't necessarily trying to gain a ton of muscle would probably fall on the lower end of that spectrum, around 1.2 grams per kilogram.
And what about someone who's really focused on building muscle?
They'd be further along the spectrum, probably closer to 1.6 grams per kilogram, to make sure they have enough protein to repair those muscles and build new tissue.
That protein spectrum is really helpful. Now, the video also mentioned something interesting about endurance athletes.
Yeah, this was kind of counterintuitive. You might think that endurance athletes who are all about cardio wouldn't need that much protein.
Right, because they're not trying to bulk up like bodybuilders.
Exactly. But surprisingly, ultra-endurance athletes like marathon runners and triathletes often need more protein than you think.
Really? Why is that?
Well, it's because they're putting their bodies through so much stress. All those miles and hours of training lead to a lot of muscle breakdown. Plus, their bodies start using protein as fuel during those long workouts.
Oh, wow. So they need extra protein for both muscle repair and energy.
Exactly. It just goes to show that protein isn't just about big muscles. It's about supporting your body's recovery and adaptation to any kind of physical stress.
That's fascinating. So we have this protein spectrum, but is there like a magic number that works for everyone?
Well, and unfortunately not. It would be nice, but there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The ideal protein intake really depends on a lot of individual factors.
So it's all about finding what works best for you and your body.
Exactly. Pay attention to how you feel and how you're progressing. You might need to experiment a bit within those safe ranges to find your sweet spot.
That makes sense. You mentioned individual factors earlier.
Oh, yeah.
The video talks about how being in a calorie deficit can affect our protein needs. Could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. When you're eating fewer calories than you're burning, your body needs to find energy somewhere.
Makes sense.
And sometimes it starts breaking down muscle protein for fuel.
Oh, so if we're not careful, we could actually lose muscle mass while trying to lose weight.
That's a risk.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not eating enough protein. That's why it's generally a good idea to keep your protein intake a little higher when you're trying to lose weight.
To protect those muscles and keep our metabolism going strong.
Exactly. It also helps you feel fuller for longer, which can be a lifesaver when you're cutting calories.
That's super helpful. Now, I know this is a question a lot of people worry about.
Oh, yeah.
Is it possible to eat too much protein? Can it actually be harmful?
It's a valid concern. To understand that, we need to think about how protein is broken down in the body. Remember, we talked about nitrogen balance?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when protein is broken down, one of the byproducts is ammonia.
Right, the stuff scientists measure in our waste.
Yep. And ammonia is actually toxic to the body, so the liver has to work hard to convert it into urea, which is then safely excreted in our urine. But there's a limit to how fast the liver can do that.
So if we overload our system with way more protein than we need,
Our liver might struggle to keep up, and that could potentially lead to some health problems.
so there really are upper limits we need to be aware of. What would you say is a safe upper limit for protein intake?
Based on the current research, it seems like up to 2.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is safe for most healthy people, but consistently going above that could be risky. And interestingly, even for serious bodybuilders, there's not much evidence that going above 2.5 grams per kilogram actually gives them any extra benefits.
So more isn't always better when it comes to protein.
Nope.
It's about finding that sweet spot for your individual needs and goals.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian to figure out what's right for you.
This has been a fascinating look at the science of protein. What are some key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember from this part of our discussion?
Let's see. First, protein needs vary a lot from person to person. It depends on how active you are, what your goals are, your age, and even your genetics.
So no need to stress about finding that one perfect number for everyone.
All right. Second, nitrogen balance is a super important concept. It's the key to understanding whether you're building, maintaining, or losing muscle.
Oh, lastly.
Listen to your body. It will give you clues about whether you're getting enough protein. Don't be afraid to experiment a bit within those safe ranges and see how you feel.
Great advice. Now, before we move on to part 2, where we'll explore those individual factors that affect our protein needs even further, let's take a moment to recap what we've learned so far. Remember that RDA we talked about?
Yeah.
That's really just a bare minimum. It's not a target for people who are active.
Definitely. And while protein powders and supplements can be convenient for some people, they're not a replacement for whole food sources of protein.
Great point. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll break down how to actually apply all of this knowledge to your own life.
It's going to be good.
Welcome back, everyone. We've covered a lot of ground already, but now it's time to get a little more personal.
Yeah, let's dive into how some of those individual factors can really impact protein needs.
Perfect. So let's start with age. I've heard that as we get older, our protein needs might actually change. Is there any truth to that?
It's true. As we age, our bodies don't quite use protein as efficiently as they used to, especially when it comes to building and maintaining muscle.
Oh, no. So it's not just about looks. It actually affects our strength and how well we function as we get older.
Exactly. This loss of muscle mass as we age is actually called sarcopenia.
Sarcopenia, huh? I'll have to remember that one.
And while there's no exact formula, most experts agree that older adults probably benefit from slightly more protein than younger folks.
Okay, so it's not a huge jump in protein needs, but more of a gradual increase over time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it like adding a little extra protein to your meals as you get older, especially if you start to notice any changes in your energy or strength.
That makes sense. Better to be proactive, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so we've talked about age, but what about activity level? We touched on that protein spectrum earlier with different ranges for different activity levels. What about people who are really hitting the gym hard and trying to build serious muscle?
Yeah, the muscle building crew.
Exactly. Where do they fall on the spectrum?
If you're consistently doing intense strength training and your goal is to gain muscle, you're definitely going to need more protein than someone who's just maintaining their current physique or doing lighter exercise.
So they're probably up there closer to that 2.0 grams per kilogram of body weight mark.
Most likely, yeah. It's all about giving your body those building blocks to repair and rebuild muscle tissue after those tough workouts. That's how you get those gains.
Got it. But what about those of us who are somewhere in between, not hardcore bodybuilders, but still active? How do we find that sweet spot?
Honestly, the best thing you can do is pay attention to your body and how you're feeling. If you're constantly sore, fatigued, or not seeing the progress you want, it might be a sign that you need to bump up your protein a little.
So it's all about that feedback loop.
Yeah. Your body will usually tell you what it needs.
That's good to know. Now let's talk about genetics. Everyone's talking about genetics these days.
Right.
Do they play a role in how much protein we need too?
They can. It's not quite as straightforward as some of the other factors, but genetics definitely influence how your body responds to protein.
Like some people just naturally build muscle more easily than others.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be due to genetics.
So while we can't just take a genetic test to figure out our exact protein needs, it's another reminder that those general recommendations don't always apply to everyone.
Definitely. It highlights the importance of personalized nutrition. What works for one person might not work for another.
Absolutely. Speaking of personalized nutrition, we talked earlier about how being in a calorie deficit can affect protein needs.
Oh, yeah. That's an important one.
Can you remind us how that works?
Of course. When you're eating fewer calories than you're burning, your body's in a state of energy deficit, so it has to get creative and find fuel from somewhere.
And that somewhere can sometimes be our muscles.
Sometimes, yeah. It can start breaking down muscle protein for energy if it needs to.
So we could actually lose muscle mass along with fat mass when we're trying to slim down if we're not careful?
That's the risk, especially if you're not getting enough protein. That's why it's usually recommended to keep your protein intake a bit higher when you're in a calorie deficit.
To protect those muscles and keep our metabolism humming along.
Exactly. Plus, protein tends to be more satiating, meaning it keeps you feeling fuller for longer, which can be super helpful when you're watching your calorie intake.
It's a win-win. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
What about the different types of protein? Does it matter if we're getting our protein from animals, plants, or a mix of both?
That's a great question. You've probably heard all those terms like complete and incomplete proteins essential and non-essential amino acids.
Yeah, it can definitely get confusing. Can you break it down for us?
Absolutely. Complete proteins are those that contain all 9 essential amino acids, which are the ones our bodies can't make on their own. These are usually found in animal sources like meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and dairy.
So those are like the protein all-stars giving us everything we need in one package.
Exactly. Then you have incomplete proteins, which are missing one or more of those essential amino acids. Those are typically found in plant-based sources like beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds.
So does that mean we need to be super careful about combining different plant-based proteins at every meal to make sure we're getting all those essential amino acids?
Luckily, no. That's a common misconception, but you don't need to stress about creating the perfect protein combinations at every single meal.
Oh, thank goodness. So it's more about aiming for variety throughout the day.
Exactly. As long as you're eating a diverse range of protein-rich foods throughout the day, whether they're from plants or animals, you'll likely get all the essential amino acids your body needs.
That's a relief. So we've covered age, activity level, genetics, calorie intake, and even the types of protein we eat. Are there any other sneaky factors that can affect our protein needs?
There are, actually. Things like stress levels, sleep quality, and certain medical conditions can all impact how your body uses and processes protein.
Wow, so it's really a whole web of interconnected factors.
It is. And that's why it can be so helpful to work with a healthcare professional or a registered dietitian. They can help you figure out your individual needs and create a personalized plan that's right for you.
It's like having your own personal protein roadmap.
Exactly. And it's not just about hitting a certain number on your protein tracker. It's about understanding your own unique circumstances and adjusting as needed.
So while those general guidelines and protein calculators can be helpful starting points, it's really all about listening to your body and fine-tuning based on how you feel and how you're progressing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about empowering yourself to make informed decisions about your nutrition.
I love that. This has been a fantastic exploration of how individual factors can really impact our protein needs. Before we jump into part 3, where we'll delve into some practical tips for incorporating more protein into our diets, let's quickly recap what we've learned in part 2.
Okay, sounds good.
So remember, our protein needs aren't set in stone. They change over time as we age and as our activity levels go up or down.
And even though protein powders and supplements can be helpful in some situations, they're not meant to replace real whole food sources of protein.
Great point. And perhaps most importantly, everyone's different. Your body will tell you what it needs, so pay attention and adjust accordingly.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our protein deep dive. We've talked about the science, the individual factors, and now it's time for the fun part, putting it all into practice.
Yeah, let's get practical.
So how can we actually make sure we're getting enough protein without overcomplicating things?
But it really doesn't have to be complicated. You can make a big difference with just a few simple tweaks.
I like the sound of that. So what are some easy ways to bump up our protein intake without turning our kitchens into a chemistry lab?
One really easy strategy is to just focus on having a source of protein at every meal.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have to be a huge portion either. Just think about adding a scoop of Greek yogurt to your breakfast or sprinkling some nuts and seeds on your salad. Even a hard-boiled egg can be a great protein-packed snack.
Those are all such easy additions. I think I often get so caught up in loading my plate with veggies that I forget about the protein sometimes.
It happens, but it's all about finding that balance. Protein doesn't have to be the star of the show at every meal.
Right. It's about making sure your plate is well-rounded and nourishing. Speaking of well-rounded, let's talk about plant-based protein sources. They're super popular these days.
They are.
Any creative tips for getting more beans, lentils, and tofu into our meals?
Oh, definitely. Plant-based proteins are so versatile. You can add lentils to soups and stews, throw chickpeas in your salads, or even use lentils instead of ground meat in your pasta sauce. Tofu is a great one, too. You can scramble it, bake it, add it to stir-fries. The possibilities are endless.
I love that. Okay, now let's address the elephant in the room, protein supplements.
Yeah, those are everywhere.
Are they really necessary, or can we get all the protein we need from food?
That's a good question. Honestly, for most people who eat a pretty balanced and varied diet, supplements aren't strictly necessary. You can definitely get enough protein from food alone.
So they're not like a magic solution?
Not really.
Huh.
But they can be convenient for people who have busy schedules or maybe some dietary restrictions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like a quick protein shake after a workout can be an easy way to refuel.
Exactly. And for those who might have trouble meeting their protein needs through food alone, like if they have a medical condition or really high protein requirements, supplements can be helpful to fill in those gaps.
So they're more like a tool that can be helpful in certain situations.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Now, I know there are some concerns out there about protein intake. Like, is it really bad for our kidneys to eat a lot of protein?
Oh, that's a common myth. But thankfully, it's not really true for most healthy people. Unless you already have kidney issues, eating more protein within those safe ranges we talked about isn't going to hurt your kidneys.
That's good to know. What about any other potential downsides? We talked about how the liver is involved in processing protein. Is there anything to be mindful of there?
You're right. We did talk about that. Remember, the liver has to convert ammonia, which is a byproduct of protein breakdown, into urea so we can get rid of it safely. And there's a limit to how quickly it can do that.
Right. So if we go way overboard on protein,
it could potentially put a strain on the liver. That's why it's generally not a good idea to consistently exceed that 2.5 grams per kilogram of body weight uppy limit.
So moderation is key, as with most things in nutrition.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance, listening to your body, and adjusting as needed.
Great advice. This has been such an insightful deep dive into the world of protein. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I just want to emphasize that protein is such an important nutrient for our overall health. It helps us build and repair tissues. It supports our immune system. It even plays a role in hormone production.
Wow, it really does it all.
It really does.
Yeah.
By understanding our individual needs and making informed choices, we can all optimize our protein intake to fuel our bodies and reach our goals, whatever those may be.
Beautifully said. And remember, there's no single right answer when it comes to protein. It's all about finding what works best for you and your amazing, unique body.
Couldn't agree more.
A huge thanks to everyone for joining us on this protein adventure. We hope you've learned a thing or two and maybe feel a little more empowered to make those healthy choices that work for you.
Absolutely.
And if you're feeling inspired to keep exploring and learning, especially in the realms of science, technology, engineering, and math, we highly recommend checking out brilliant.org. It's a fantastic platform with all kinds of interactive courses and challenges that make learning fun and engaging.
It's a great resource.
And don't forget to share your own protein wisdom in the comments below. We always love hearing from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep nourishing yourselves.